Well, welcome everyone to this last session on the theme. I don't know about you, but one of the things that I found really powerful about what Michael has been saying to us each morning is picking up the story of Michael's own personal life and ministry, and the way that's connected, I think, has been really hard-hitting. So Michael, question this morning. You were telling us about this ministry that's developed, about going around, was it 18 countries, you said? 18 countries of the world with this message of invitation. So what happened in 2020 when the world shut down and you couldn't do that?
Yeah, I think it was a really terrible 72 hours for me, because I suddenly kind of realised from being trotting around the world, I could no longer do that anymore. Within 72 hours, all of my forward-looking speaking engagements were cancelled. And it was said in this way: I'm sure you'll understand, Michael, as a part of my income is derived from speaking, it was, oh, right, okay, very, very tricky indeed. And so sometimes God has to take things away from us in order for us to see something different. And I think what the pandemic did for me was it basically kind of gave me an opportunity to just review what it was that I was actually doing.
Right.
The ministry that I was involved in, was actually kind of, the word achieving is not the right word, but what it was producing. And I'd been working, for something like, 17 years. This is the 20th year of me actually trying to work on what the problem is in trying to kind of get Christians to answer the call of God. What is going on there? So it was 17 years in, and then everything's taken away. But really, within probably a week, I had received a little nudge myself, a little prompt myself, from some work that I'd been doing with individual Christians who'd been really struggling with answering the call of God. And it was contained in two of the books that I'd written, but I'd never really truly developed it. And one could almost call it a speed awareness course. Now, for some of you like me, who may have been caught once or twice speeding, there is what is now known as a speed awareness course. And I know one minister just recently tried to get out of a speed awareness course. But for those of you who don't want 3 points on your license, they're pretty good. You have to actually kind of attend something that lasts 3 hours, and they teach you all sorts of things about speed. And if you go at 75 miles an hour compared with going at 70 miles an hour, does it get you there any quicker? It's a really interesting take, and what they've found by taking people through the speed awareness is that actually kind of speed does come down, and people do start to drive. Not everybody, but quite a good proportion of people start to drive at the correct speed. And I think what God reminded me of during the pandemic was that actually we're travelling far too fast in Christianity. We're going too fast. We wear busyness, as a badge of honour, you know, but Jesus was never busy. Jesus never seemed to be in a hurry. Yet we're wearing busyness as if that's, oh, look how busy I am. And I was reminded of a kind of a book by the Japanese theologian, who you probably all know, Kazuki Kayama. Oh no, you don't. Anyway, no. So there's this book by the way, I've never read this book, but I love the title of the book. I love the title of the book. The book is titled The 3 Mile an Hour God. The 3 Mile an Hour God. And I love the title of that book. I just think it's such a wonderful title. And you know what's behind it is that Jesus did all his ministry walking at 3 miles an hour. And there was nothing that could persuade Kazuki Kayama that anything had changed. Because he said, even God in the wilderness, when the children of Israel was in the wilderness, walked at the pace of the children of Israel as they were wandering around the wilderness. So this idea that essentially what the pandemic did to us all was it slowed us down, it discombobulated us, you know, in some way. And it certainly slowed me down, and it allowed me to see more clearly that there was a practice that I had been doing which I hadn't fully understood and utilised. And that practice was called ACORN, which I've just written on there. But the pandemic allowed me just to try and work out, right, if you're not able to get out of your house, if you're confined to an armchair, if you don't see anybody on a regular basis, could you possibly still do mission? You know, so the worst case scenario, if you are in your home, never seeing anybody, could you possibly do mission? Now, it's the same question if you can get out of your home, so I'm not saying, you know, that it's just restricted to that, but if you went down to the worst case scenario, can't get to your home, can't see anybody, could you still do mission? And is God still calling? And so that's what the pandemic, it actually collapsed our worlds, it certainly collapsed my world, but was it still possible to answer the call of God to do mission? And so that's what the pandemic did to me. It really kind of started to encapsulate an idea that I'd had, but I'd had no time to develop whatsoever, Lawrence.
And excuse me. And the idea that emerged was ACORN.
Yes.
Okay. Can you unpack ACORN?
So it's a spiritual practice, and I truly kind of believe that we need to find ways to practice our faith outside of what we're doing right at this moment in time. So I don't want to kind of criticize anything else that we're actually kind of doing, but there seems to be a missing hole that needs to be filled with a spiritual practice. So ACORN is a spiritual practice. I thought it was to do with mission. Then I discovered actually it was to do with mission and discipleship. Then I discovered actually it was to do with mission, discipleship and prayer. Then I discovered it was to do with mission, discipleship, prayer and healing. It's annoying, isn't it, when things come together like that? Because we like to kind of separate them and think, oh, we're going to have some teaching on prayer now. Now we're going to have some teaching on mission. Now we're going to have some teaching on discipleship. So it's quite annoying when they all kind of come together and everything is meshed. So it's a spiritual practice now that hundreds of people are doing around the UK. It's been adopted by Church of Scotland as its mission and discipleship tool. It's in churches in Canada. It's got to some churches in England. But it's a spiritual practice which takes into account all the things we've been doing this week. And I've had you practicing it without you knowing it. Because, what I discovered when I got here is that, I think one of the reasons probably you all like kind of forums so much is there's quite a lot of discussion, eye-to-eye discussion going on around the tables, and the way in which forum is actually set out. Yes, there is an expert here, but there's an opportunity to actually reflect together on what it is that you're actually kind of hearing. And so ACORN is a spiritual practice that brings together that idea of cheering one another on by hearing, kind of from one another. So maybe if I kind of start off with taking each of the letters. It's an acronym. ACORN is an acronym. So if I start with the first letter, the A is for ask. So I have suggested this spiritual practice starts with a prayer, with an ask. And the ask is this. You can either start it, gracious God, or Lord, or whichever way you want to kind of start it. I'm quite comfortable. But let's say the way I start it would be, Lord, today, is there someone you want me to connect with outside the church family? So just imagine, we're still in the pandemic, we just got our armchair, and you're just praying that prayer. Now we've got more opportunity now, but I just wanted to, this is where it kind of started. Lord, today, is there someone you want me to connect with outside the church family? And it's hilarious, Lawrence, I think it might be 15 words, something like that. I say, that's all I'd like you to do. And people still say, quite busy, got a lot going on. And I go, it's 15 blooming words. That's all I want you to have a go at praying. Just pray it. Lord, today, is there someone you want me to connect with outside the church family? What's wrong with that prayer? What's wrong? There's nothing wrong with that prayer. It's a really kind of simple prayer. But let me kind of say why I believe we should start with something like that. Jesus said, I only do what I see the Father do. I need to be about my Father's business. So it looks as if even Jesus was being directed by the Father. Therefore, can we not model the way, through this prayer, Jesus was actually doing it? And then listen to the power of the prayer. The first word and the sixth word are the key. Lord, and then the sixth word. Lord, today, is there someone you? I mean, that's so good, isn't it? So good, because essentially we can relax at that point. Because it's down to the Lord to nudge us, to prompt us. So Lord, today, is there someone you? And then there's this really beautiful thing in the middle of it. You may not have seen it yet, but there's three beautiful words, which is, Lord, today, is there someone you want me? You want me. It is, it's so easy to miss that bit in the middle. Yeah. You want me. And this is always the case. All God, I believe, has ever wanted is to walk with us. Where are you? He cried, because he'd come for a walk in the cool of the day. So Lord, today, is there someone you want me to connect with? Here's that word connect. You see, I've changed it. I've changed from invite to connect, because I want to connect first. I want to connect first. Lord, today, is there someone you want me to connect with outside the church family. You know, some people might say, well, surely we need to do this inside the church family. And I say, great, yeah, absolutely we do. And you'll see how it develops from outside the church family to inside the church family. But there's the ask, Lawrence. That's the ask.
Okay. So, just before we move on, could you just explain what, for you, is the difference between mission and discipleship? Because for some people, I think they're interchangeable.
Yeah. So for me, I suppose kind of a conventional view of mission might well be that we've been sent by God on mission to somebody else. That could be a conventional view of mission. Whereas discipleship, I would say, is something about that as we go on mission, there is an opportunity not only for the person we meet to be discipled, but also we can get discipled in the process itself. So it is interchangeable, but I deal with directors of mission, I deal with directors of discipleship, and we seem to have kind of separated the two.